Hey guys, it's Matt here, coming to you with a video on PSTH, which stands for Pershing Square Tontine Holdings. PSTH was a SPAC that I covered a bit of a while ago. As you can see here, posted on November 30th, 2020, back when I first started doing SPAC coverage. I went into the SPAC structure and who I thought that they would be merging with based on the rumor mill at the time. The rumors back then were very heavily favored in support of a merger with Stripe. 4 months later, we see that on Reddit, you really have quite a few different camps of where people believe PSTH is going to be going. In reality, nobody really knows. PSTH has been incredibly silent. They've been really good at keeping everything hush hush. And since everything's been going to Zoom meetings for the pandemic and COVID related issues, it's really easy now to have meetings from a laptop. It's really easy and professionally acceptable now to do that and never have to leave the house so people can track where you're going, what offices you're going to, which would typically spur more rumors as to, Bill Ackman sightings and news such as that. But this video is more of an update on where we stand today on PSTH and what's been going on over the last several months. Now, to serve as a quick recap on PSTH's overall size, the amount of money it has currently in the SPAC, and what that means compared to other SPACs. PSTH is the largest SPAC by far when it comes to how much money is being held in the SPAC. This is not to be confused with transaction value. The largest transaction value currently sits with Lucid Motors and United Wholesale Mortgage. However, going to just SPAC size, we're talking about $4 billion. That is currently roughly double of the next largest, which is CCIV, which stands for Churchill Capital 4. Now, initially when PSTH IPO'd, there was a lot of hype around this, especially with Bill Ackman being involved. If you don't know anything about the billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman, he made a massive bet around the pandemic where he was able to turn, for him and for his hedge fund, a relatively small sum of money into a massive amount of money. I'm not going to go too much into detail on that, but Bill Ackman has quite some hype around him. We're going to jump over to this article, which is titled Ackman Quashes Hopes for an Immediate SPAC Announcement and His Fans Despair. So back when I made my original video in November, this was during the time when Bill Ackman had, in an interview, mentioned that they were aiming to announce the company that they were going to be taking public by Q1 of 2021. Since today is April 6th, we know that Q1 has come and gone with no announcement. So what gives? Let's take a look at the article. I'm going to read some sections here just so we can make sure we're all on the same page. Bill Ackman isn't going to announce a merger partner for his SPAC by the end of March, and many of his fans are unhappy about it. Last November, Ackman told his hedge fund investors that he hoped to announce a deal for Pershing Square Tontine Holdings, his $4 billion special purpose acquisition company, during the first quarter. But in a letter released Monday, Ackman said that he wouldn't be able to announce anything by March 31st, 2 days away. So Bill Ackman issued a letter on March 29th, more or less letting people know that he's not going to be able to announce a merger company within the next 2 days. While we previously believed that we would be able to announce a potential transaction by the end of this quarter, we will not be in position to do so. Ackman said in a letter that was part of the 2020 annual report for Pershing Square Holdings, his publicly traded hedge fund. Moving on in the article, we do not intend to make any announcements about PSTH's transaction progress until we enter into a definitive agreement, he said in Monday's letter. Ackman, who previously told institutional investor that he was watching the Reddit group and working very hard not to disappoint them, declined further comment. When he's talking about the Reddit group, what he's talking about is r/PSTH, which is a group of roughly 11 to 12,000 different Redditors that try to sleuth their way into figuring out who PSTH is going to be reverse merging with. Now, regarding the part where he talks about we will not be making any announcements until we enter into a definitive agreement, if you're new to SPACs and you're not sure what a definitive agreement is, it's basically more so than just a handshake. A definitive agreement says that both parties, the SPAC and the private company that will be reverse merging together, are formally acknowledging that they will be going through with this transaction. Usually when you see a definitive agreement, the SPAC tends to completely spike depending on who the target is and depending on what the valuation of the target is at the SPAC's value at that time. Okay, so we missed Q1 2021. This is when several people thought that a company would be announced as to who PSTH was merging with. Let's get a little more clarification from what Bill Ackman is saying around the timing of this definitive agreement. In terms of timing, what we said at the time of the IPO is we said it would take us, we thought, about 6 months to identify a target that we would be in a position to hopefully announce a deal by sometime in Q1 and then close a transaction in the ordinary course thereafter. He said on the November investor call, nothing that we have experienced to date suggests that we won't meet our expected time frame. As is standard for SPACs, Ackman has 2 years from Tontine's IPO dated July 22nd, 2020 to strike a deal. This is true. SPAC usually has anywhere from 18 to 24 months to complete the entire process of reverse merging with a private company. So since they only IPO'd in July 2020, right now we're sitting 7 months into that process. So if you're looking to invest in this SPAC and you're looking to possibly ride this one through merger, it's going to be a bit of a long haul. You're talking about potentially another 17 months before a company actually merges with PSTH. So why would anybody want to play this? Well, if you're in the SPAC area of investing, you know that, like I mentioned before, when there's a definitive agreement, the SPAC will usually completely spike, giving you a pretty ridiculous return in a short period of time. The hard part is guessing when that definitive agreement is coming, because if it takes another 6 months and you're sitting in it and have been sitting in it for the last 6 months since IPO, you're waiting a year for what is potentially a 20% or more pop. 20% over the year is nice. That's really nice, but it's not necessarily amazing compared to placing your money elsewhere in the market. Now, I'm not telling you to put your money anywhere else in the market, and I'm also not telling you to invest in PSTH because remember, I'm not a financial advisor. Please do all your own due diligence before you decide to invest in any of these stocks that I ever mentioned. However, if we can time when PSTH is going to have a definitive agreement based on some clues, maybe we can have our money sit around for a little bit less time and reap the benefits of that pop. So regardless of trying to time this definitive agreement, the actual SPAC structure was created in a way to incentivize long-term investors, and this is because of the Tontine structure. If you want to find more about that, you can either go to r/PSTH or check out my previous video on PSTH from 4 months ago, which I'll link up here. In reading the last section of this quote from Bill Ackman, 8 months since PSTH's launch, we remain convinced that an investment in PSTH will generate highly attractive long-term returns even from PSTH's current stock price, he wrote in Monday's letter. So this is roughly a week ago, and at the time, PSTH was actually a little bit higher than it is now, and even at that stock price, he believes that it is going to be quite an attractive return over the long term. Granted, we take this with a grain of salt because, of course, Bill Ackman is going to be bullish on his own SPAC and the company that he's been targeting. Okay, so where's the new news? If you've been following PSTH, none of this is new to you. You know everything that I've just been spouting off during the beginning of this video. Well, I found what looks to me like a very, very interesting post on Reddit, and it's actually been posted in a couple different locations. So for one, it's been posted on Wall Street Bets OGs, and it's also been posted on our SPACs. A little bit different of a write-up on both, but they're both the same original poster, who is the user DHSMat2. So we're going to read a couple different sections of this so we can understand what this new information is. So OP is posting that Reese Longwell from Twitter did some due diligence on PSTH that this person, Matt, thought was very interesting. The DD was in regards to the cash burn related to PSTH in past quarters. The DD was very simple. PSTH greatly accelerated their cash burn in the legal department in Q4. I thought the DD was very interesting and I wanted some type of comparison, so I logged on to SPAC Track to look at some historical SPACs that have closed. This is a very rough measure because so much of the cash burn is dependent on when the SPAC launched and when it closed, but I will try to cover that in my charts. So if we go to his charts, down here, we'll find that it basically lists out a SPAC, the company that the SPAC was merging with, the loss from operations, how many months of trading are associated with the loss from operations, and what that equates to for cash burn per month. So basically taking the loss from operations, dividing it by months of trading, and getting a figure of cash burn per month. And at the very bottom of this chart, we will see that if you're looking at these last two rows, the second to last row has PSTH. We don't know the company that is merging with. The total loss from operations over the last 7 months of trading, which equates to $414,000 per month. But when you extrapolate the last 3 months, you end up finding that it averages out to $766,000 per month. So there's clearly a massive bump there because in the first 4 months, the difference between these two figures here, the 2.9 million and 2.3 million, I can actually extrapolate from this that in the first 4 months, they were spending $150,000 on operations per month. In the last 3 months of 2020, that $150,000 average shoots up to $766,000 per month. So let's continue reading the post. The last 3 months of the year, there was a significant acceleration of cash burn from operations. If we extrapolate the Q4 cash burn, then we can assume that PSTH has now burned through 4 to 5 million of cash. That is more or less assuming that the cash burn is still roughly the same through the first 3 months of 2021. I would assume this is a bullish signal for a deal, and I expect finalizing the deal could take as long as another quarter or as short as this month. One thing that works in our advantage is that PSTH will not likely require a pipe. So BFT, the other highest burn SPAC on this list, raised $2 billion in pipe investments, and it occurred over a 3-week time period and 75 Zoom calls, according to Bill Foley. I would like to believe this month, April, is a possibility, but I am prepared to wait. The opportunity cost has already done its damage to my portfolio, and the sell down has presented a unique buying opportunity. Now, what they're referencing there at the end is that if you're not invested in SPACs, then you probably don't know that SPACs had a massive sell-off over the last probably 4 to 6 weeks now, and it's been taking a hit. So I've got some SPACs in my portfolio, and they've been taking quite a bit of hit. Thankfully, I've been able to balance that out with returns in other places. But it is very true. A lot of these SPACs are currently trading at very, very, very attractive values. So if you're not holding PSTH right now, it could be a very good time to get in, especially considering the timing with how close we could possibly be to a definitive agreement. Now, if we go to when this post was actually made, it was roughly 4 days ago. The post that he made over in our SPACs was made 23 hours ago, and it provides a little bit more insight into what we just covered, which I want to take a look at with you. So he has this figure here from a snapshot of an Excel sheet that he put together. If you take a look at this, it's a list of different SPACs, and it's tracking how much cash was burned in each quarter leading up to their definitive agreement. So if we take a look and kind of glance through all of this, because it's a lot to see in this YouTube video, so I'm going to walk you through this real quick. You can see these different columns for Q1 2019 cash burn, Q2 2019 cash burn, all the way through Q3 2020 cash burn. Now, if we just pay attention to how these figures accelerated over time, we can pay attention more so to this column that's highlighted in yellow. And the column highlighted in yellow is titled Percent Increase for Definitive Agreement Quarter versus Average of Previous Quarters. And there you can see figures that range from 220% increase, 419% increase, 2,200% increase, and so on. So there are massive increases in spending and cash burn in that quarter where a definitive agreement comes out compared to the average of the previous quarters. Now, if we take a look down at this kind of salmon colored box at the bottom, PSTH Q3 cash burn is at $668,000. PSTH Q4 cash burn, and this is for 2020 by the way, is at $2.1 million, which is a 324% increase. So if cash burn is still accelerating at that level, and we end up getting figures showing 2021 cash burn in the thousands of percentile, it should suffice to say that we're probably getting pretty close to this definitive agreement. And since he didn't hit Q1 2021 after aiming for Q1 2021, we may be close, and it could be this quarter, this Q2 2021, for a definitive agreement. There was another post over on r/PSTH from the user Futuristic Lemon, and he summarized some bullish and bearish indicators for PSTH having a DA very soon. I'm going to leave a link to this post down in the description if you want to check that out, and if you're considering getting in this, by all means, please review it, take a look at it, learn a little bit about the SPAC, learn a little bit about Bill Ackman. And then lastly, for anybody that's obsessed with Elon Musk like myself, there are quite a few different tribes within r/PSTH regarding the company that PSTH will possibly be merging with. So I had made a video 4 months ago on their potential merger with Stripe. There is the Bloomberg. There is the Bloomberg tribe. There is the Starlink tribe, which of course is probably the hypiest because that would just be so cool if Starlink had a reverse merger with PSTH and Bill Ackman and Elon Musk got together. That would just be amazing and would probably send this ticker through the stratosphere. But who's to say? Right now, it's all conjecture, it's all rumor. But the one thing that I can say is right now, if I'm trying to rub the crystal ball, what I'm seeing and feeling is possibly that we're going to see a definitive agreement in Q2. Now, who knows? Maybe I'm looking for confirmation bias in this, but hopefully you enjoyed the content. Hopefully you enjoyed getting a download on where we're at with this SPAC, and you were able to get something out of this video. So that's all I have for today, guys. Please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you're not currently subscribed. If you're not trading on Webull and want to get 2 free stocks with a deposit of $100, there's a link down in the description as always. And until next time, guys. See ya.